So, I mean, one of the things I've been telling the people who've been watching my videos and in the live conversations is that you have to take yourself seriously. You have to know that you're a monster and that you're capable of terrible things, and that you have a responsibility to understand that, to incorporate it, to constrain it, and to discipline it, and then to work for the alleviation of suffering and the constraint of malevolence. And if you understand that, then it can turn your life into a noble enterprise. And then you have some self-respect, which beats the hell out of self-esteem in my estimation. So, and I don't think that that's a difficult message for people to understand. I think they know that at a fundamental level, and I think at the moment they're starving to death for it.
The subordinate principle. So the thing, when you talk about this elevated state, this elevated thing, I think I've figured out that what you're talking about is essentially truth. Is that to you sort of what we need to do is deal in truth on a daily basis in our own lives and in the lives with people around us?
Well, I think it's two things. Like in sort of classical Christian morality, and I bring it up because it's sort of at the substructure of Western ethics. There's two things. There's truth and love, and you know, both of those words are even hard to say because they've been mouthed to death. But they have, in some sense, they have a deep technical meaning, and if you know that, then it kind of reignites their power. And love is the decision that being is worthwhile and that you should struggle to support and improve it. And that's not a trivial thing, because being is rife with suffering. You know, everyone dies, everyone gets sick. Like it's brutal, and it's easy to turn against it. And so the idea that you're going to voluntarily accept responsibility for that, assume that it's good, or act as if it's good and try to improve it, is no trivial matter. And that means you have to scour out the resentment and the arrogance and the deceit primarily. And it's sort of based on this idea, I would say, is like, well, life is very hard, obviously, but we're not doing everything we could to make it better. And we're often doing things to make it worse. So even if it is suffering, which is true, we have no idea how much we could ameliorate that if we all put our efforts into it. And so that's a genuine question. It's like, yeah, there's reasons to shake your fist and curse God. I mean, everyone ends up in a situation like that. Someone they love gets a terrible illness and disintegrates before their eyes, you know, and maybe they're a really good person and they've done nothing you would think of to deserve that. And, you know, that terrible fate is visited upon them. It's very difficult not to get cynical and angry under such circumstances. But then, well, that takes you down a very bad road if you do that. But it doesn't change the fundamental question. It's like, if your life isn't everything you think it should be, you have to ask yourself if you're doing everything you can. Because you actually don't get to make a judgment about the structure of being until you do everything you can. And I would say that's love, essentially. That's the decision. And then truth is the best strategy with regards to that attainment. And how could it be otherwise? Like, if you're going to contend with reality, you bloody well better know what it is. You know, and truth isn't your grandmother's, you know, your too tight-laced grandmother's moral finger wagging. It's like the truth of existence is brutal and bitter. And so to be able to face that and to admit to the things that you are and to communicate them with other people, especially in an intimate relationship, it's like that's no cowardly morality. That's not the morality of cowardice, quite the contrary. You know, Nietzsche said you could assess the spirit of a man by determining how much truth he could tolerate. It's like that's the right way of thinking about truth. Well, you opened this whole podcast with some truth. It's like, who wants to hear that? You know, and people think, oh, that's so terrible, and they don't think, well, could I be one of those ISIS guys? It's like, I can tell you, if you're bitter enough, especially if you hate women, you know, because they've rejected you because you're so goddamn useless that no woman in their right mind would look at you twice. You know, that'll generate plenty of bitterness in your soul. And if you don't think that you could act like that under those conditions, then you're not even watching your own fantasies. So, truth in the service of the betterment of being, it's something like that. And that's enough to give your life meaning. I don't